Welcome back. In today's video, you will learn how to use long division to divide polynomials. So here my goal is to divide x squared plus 3x minus 10 with x minus 2. Before we go ahead and jump right into long division of polynomials, let's go ahead and refresh how to divide first. So here I have a number 73. I'm dividing with 3. My first step would be to see how many times 3 goes into 7, and that would be 2 times. My next step is to multiply 3 times 2, which is 6, and then the step after is to subtract. 7 minus 6 is 1. I bring down the 3, and then my next step is to see how many times 3 goes into 13, which is 4 times, and then I multiply, and I get a 12, and I subtract, and then my final answer is 1. Because I don't have anything to bring down, this 1 is going to be my final answer. In here, I have 24. So 73, when you divide 3 with 73, you get a 24 with the remainder 1. And that's how you divide, right? Your dividend and your divisor, you make sure if you have any remainder. Now let me go ahead and erase all of this, and now let's go ahead and see how to divide polynomials. Step 1 is to write them down. So I have x squared plus 3x minus 10. I am dividing with x minus 2. And here I will only focus on the first term of the dividend and the first term of the divisor. Okay? So here I'm trying to see how many times x goes into x squared, which is x times. My next step is to multiply x with this x and also x with negative 2. If you noticed, I did not care about negative 2. I'm only focused on the first term here. I'm only focused on the first term in the dividend and the first term in the divisor. And that's how you do it. So let me undo this. So once I know how many times x goes into x squared, my next step is to multiply. So x times x is x squared. X times negative 2 is negative 2x. Okay, once this is done, let me go ahead and erase these. And once I'm done here, what's my next step? I have to subtract. When I subtract, what do? I change the sign. So this plus becomes a minus, and this minus becomes a plus. I'm changing signs. And now positive x squared, negative x squared cancel each other. Positive 3x plus 2x is 5x. And then remember, what do? I bring down my negative 10. If your first term did not cancel, if your first term here did not cancel, that means you made a mistake. So the rule of thumb is the first term should always cancel. That's why I focus on the x and the x squared. Now, once this is done, my next focus is going to be on 5x. Now I'm trying to see how many times this x goes into 5x. X goes into 5x positive 5 times. So plus 5. Now what do? I multiply 5 with x and 5 with 2. 5 times x is 5x. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. And now what do? I subtract. When you subtract, what happens? The sign changes. This becomes a negative. This becomes a positive. And you can see the first term got cancelled, so I know I'm on the right track. Positive 10, negative 10 also cancel each other. My remainder is 0. And now let me go ahead and erase these little lines here. So when I divide x squared plus 3x minus 10 with x minus 2, let me highlight. When I divide x squared plus 3x minus 10 with x minus 2, I end up with x plus 5. Now you can go ahead and graph this into Desmos, and you can see you will have, why should I ask you? Let me go ahead and graph it. I have x squared plus 3x minus 10. And you can see I have positive 2 and negative 5 as my intercepts. I got positive 2 and negative 5 as my intercepts. That means my factors are x minus 2 and x plus 5. So when I divide x squared plus 3x minus 10 with x minus 2, I end up with x plus 5. If I divide x squared plus 3x minus 10 with x plus 5, I end up with x minus 2. So that's another way to check and cross-check. Or you can simply factor these x squared plus 3x minus 10. What are the factors of 10 that add up to 3? Positive 5 and negative 2. So if I divide this with this, I end up with this. If I divide the above polynomial with this, I end up with this. Same thing. Now let's go ahead and look at the other problem here. You can start with your Desmos and see if you can find the intercepts. And we're going to do that in a minute. But I want to go ahead and start the long division. Let me go ahead and write that down. X cubed. So when you have higher powers, you have to make sure you have the powers in the decreasing order. What do I mean? X squared minus 2x squared minus 5x plus 6. Let's just say I did not have this 2x squared and I had x cubed minus 5x plus 6. You can divide, but you have to include another term, which would be, it doesn't matter if you put plus or minus, x squared, 0 times x squared. That way, I have all the powers in the decreasing order. Remember, if I don't see the power is 1. But luckily, I do have a 2. So if you don't have the powers in the chronological decreasing order, you go ahead and put that power with a 0 coefficient. Why? Because 0 times x squared is a big fat 0, and I'm not changing the function. Okay, so always check that first. You always have to check if your powers are in the decreasing order. So I have 3, 2, 1, and none. So I'm all good. So let me go ahead and write that down. X cubed minus 2x squared minus 5x plus 6. What am I dividing this with? X minus 3. Remember, the goal is to take a look at the first term in the dividend and the divisor. Now I'm checking how many times x goes into x cubed, which is x squared times, right? You can simply divide and you still get x squared. Now if I multiply x times x squared, what do I end up with? X cubed. And remember, I do have this 3, so I have to multiply with this 3 as well. X squared times negative 3 is negative 3x squared. Now what do? I subtract. When I subtract, what happens? I change the sign. This becomes a negative and this becomes a positive. Positive x cubed, negative x cubed cancel each other. So my first term is gone. That means I'm on the right track. Now, when I subtract, I have negative 2x squared and positive x squared, which is, positive 3x squared, which gives me positive 1x squared. What's my next step? To bring down the negative 5x. Now let me go ahead and delete these. Now my next focus is going to be x and x squared. X times what gives me x squared? Of course, a positive x. Same step, I multiply x times x. I multiply x times 3. X times x is x squared. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. Let me minimize this one. What do I do next? I subtract. When I subtract, I change the sign. This becomes a negative. This becomes a positive. The first term cancel. That means I'm on the right track. Negative 5x, positive 3x gives me negative 2x. What's my next step? Bring down the positive 6. Let me go ahead and delete this line so you know you have to multiply. Now what do? My focus is on x and negative 2x. Now I'm going to see how many times x goes into negative 2x, which is negative 2 times. And now what do? I multiply negative 2 times x and negative 2 times 3. Now let's go ahead and do that. That gives me negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6. And when I subtract, what do? I change signs. This becomes, let me change the color as well. This becomes a positive, this becomes a negative. Boom, boom, cancel, and I have a big fat 0. So when I divide x cubed minus 2x squared plus 5x with x minus 3, I get x squared plus x minus 2. So this you cannot verify in your Desmos. For cases like this, you will have to go ahead and divide. You can take it one step further and factor it out, but it's always good to know how to use long division. And again, keep in mind, if you don't have the powers in the decreasing order, 3, 2, 1, and 0, you go ahead and plug in 1. Let me quickly give you another example. If I have x power 4 plus 2x squared plus 6, and as you can see, I have 4, I have 2, and I have none. How should the order be? The order should be x power 4, and I should have something with x power 3. I have 2x squared. The next one should be something with x and then 6. Because I do not have these terms and I'm adding these terms, I go ahead and put a coefficient 0 and 0. That way I'm not changing the expression. It is the way it is. Okay, so always check if your powers are in the decreasing order, and if anything is missing, go ahead, put that power with a 0 coefficient. Hope this helps.